All right, today we're jumping into one of the most practical and I think powerful parts of the Sermon on the Mount. We're going to look at Jesus' direct instructions on how we should pray, coming right out of Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 15.
So right off the bat, I want to start with a question for you to just kind of chew on as we go through this. Are your prayers for God or are they for an audience? I mean, really think about that, because this question gets to the absolute core of what Jesus is about to teach us about the motive behind prayer, which is supposed to be this incredibly personal act of worship.
Okay, so here's what's interesting. Jesus doesn't start with a how-to guide. Nope, he starts with a how-not-to guide. He immediately goes after a huge problem he saw all around him, which was prayer that had turned into nothing more than a public performance.
Listen to how final that last sentence is. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. What he's saying is, that's it, that's all they get. The applause, the admiring glances from the people on the street corner, that's their payment in full. The transaction is complete. There's nothing more coming from heaven. And this is where it gets really fascinating. The original Greek word that's translated as hypocrite is hypocrites. And you know what that means? It means an actor, a stage player. So Jesus is literally saying, don't be like the actors. These people aren't actually praying. They're just performing piety for an audience. And God, He's not in that audience.
You know, Jesus tells a story later on that just nails this point home. It's the parable of the Pharisee and the publican. You've got the Pharisee standing right up front, praying this loud, self-righteous prayer for everyone to hear. Thank you, God, that I'm so great. But then you have the tax collector, the publican, standing way in the back, can't even look up, just quietly begging for mercy. And Jesus' punchline: it was the humble guy, not the performer, who actually went home right with God.
So look, Jesus lays out this super clear choice. It's a stark contrast. Path number one, you can do it like the hypocrites. Be loud, be public, stand on the street corner, and your reward will be the praise of the people walking by. Fleeting, but you'll get it. Or path number two, you follow his advice. Go into a private room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. And the reward for that kind of prayer, he promises, comes from a much, much higher place.
Okay, so public performance was problem number one, but Jesus isn't done. He pivots to another big issue, using vain repetitions. Now, this was a really common thing in pagan worship at the time. The thinking was, if you just chanted the same thing over and over and over again, you could kind of wear down your God, or you'd finally get their attention. It was about quantity, not quality.
There's actually a wild example of this in the Book of Mormon. You have this group called the Zoramites, and they built this tall platform to stand they called the Rameumptom. And get this, it was basically a public stage just for praying. And here's the crazy part. One by one, each person would get up there and recite the exact same prayer, word for word. It was this memorized, totally self-congratulatory speech about how great they were and how they were chosen above everyone else. I mean, that is the textbook definition of vain, repetitive, and hypocritical prayer all rolled into one.
And then Jesus just cuts through all of that noise with this one simple, beautiful truth. Why are all those performances and repetitions so completely pointless? Because your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Prayer isn't about informing God. He's not waiting for your status update. He already knows. He knew before you even opened your mouth.
So after tearing down all the wrong ways to pray, Jesus then builds up the right way. He gives us the solution. He provides a model, a divine pattern for how we can approach God. And it's super important to see this not as a script we have to repeat word for word, but as a framework, a guide for our own prayers. He starts with our Father. Right away, that changes everything. We're not talking to some distant, angry cosmic force. We're talking to a Father. It's intimate, it's relational. And then, hallowed be thy name. That sets the posture of our heart. It's one of reverence, of awe, of worship. We start by acknowledging who he is. And notice what the very first request is. It's not give me this or I want that. No, the first thing we're taught to ask for is for his kingdom to come, for his will to be done. It's an act of submission. It's about aligning our own will with his. It's basically saying, God, I want what you want for my life and for this world. Okay, now we get to our own needs. But look how humble this request is. Give us this day our daily bread. We're not asking for a stocked pantry for the next year. We're not asking for wealth. We're asking for just enough to get us through today. It's this beautiful admission that we are completely dependent on him, moment by moment, day by day.
All right, now we hit a really crucial part. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. That little word "as" is a hinge for this entire teaching. We're asking God to forgive us in the same way, with the same measure that we forgive other people. This isn't just a throwaway line, it's a principle, and you'll see Jesus comes back to this one with a vengeance.
And the model prayer wraps up with this plea for spiritual protection. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We're asking for his guidance to steer clear of things that would trip us up, and for his power to protect us. And it's really interesting. That word evil in the Greek can also mean the evil one. So it's also a direct request for deliverance from Satan himself.
So, there it is, the Lord's Prayer. A beautiful model. You'd think, okay, lesson over. But no. Jesus immediately circles right back to one specific line, the one that is clearly the most important, the most challenging, the absolute non-negotiable condition of this whole thing. I mean, listen to this. There is absolutely zero wiggle room here. He lays it out like a law of spiritual physics. If you forgive people, your Father will forgive you. If you don't forgive people, your Father will not forgive you. It's a direct, unbreakable link. Our access to His grace is tied to our willingness to give grace. And this idea is hammered home in other scriptures too. The Book of Mormon puts it this way: the person who refuses to forgive his brother standeth condemned, because in him remains the greater sin. Just pause and think about that for a second. The refusal to forgive is actually a greater sin in God's eyes than whatever the original offense was. That is staggering. And this last one just seals it. I, the Lord, will forgive whom I will forgive. Okay, that's His business. That's His judgment. But of you, it is required to forgive all men. Notice that word required. It's not a gentle suggestion. It's not a nice idea if you feel up to it. It is a commandment for every single one of us. So we end up with this incredibly challenging thought. If our own pardon from God is tied so directly to our pardoning of others, what does that say about holding a grudge? Jesus wasn't just giving us a lesson on the mechanics of prayer. He was showing us that how we speak to God is inseparable from how we treat each other. And suddenly, prayer isn't just about asking for things anymore. It becomes a mirror, forcing us to look at our own hearts.